The night everything changed started like any other Tuesday at the Metfield Estates HOA Clubhouse. The bunko dice were rolling, the wine was flowing, and then at exactly 7:12 p.m., the entire building lit up like a 4th of July finale. The espresso machine shot off the counter like a rocket, spraying hot coffee across the ceiling before crashing into Patricia Blackwood's organic cheese display. The overhead chandeliers swayed violently before dropping straight onto the meeting table, sending playing cards and poker chips flying in every direction. Someone screamed about their quinoa salad catching fire while 3 board members dove through the emergency exit, their hair standing on end from the static electricity coursing through the walls. Patricia Blackwood, our HOA president and self-appointed neighborhood dictator, stood frozen in the center of the chaos, her usually perfect blonde bob now resembling a science experiment gone wrong. The smell of burnt circuits and melted plastic filled the air as the security system began playing Christmas carols at maximum volume in July. The cause of this spectacular disaster could be traced back to 3 days earlier when Patricia had taken a pair of bolt cutters to my perfectly legal electric fence. My name is Jake Morrison, and I moved to Metfield Estates 2 years ago after retiring from 30 years as an electrical engineer. The house at the end of Sycamore Lane was perfect for me and my 2 rescue dogs, Duke and Bella. The property backed up to a wooded area where coyotes and the occasional bear liked to wander through, which is why I installed a standard agricultural electric fence around my backyard. Nothing dangerous, just enough voltage to discourage wildlife from getting too curious about my garbage cans or my dogs. Patricia Blackwood had been the HOA president for 7 years and ruled the neighborhood with an iron fist wrapped in passive-aggressive newsletter updates. She once fined the Johnsons $500 for having their Halloween decorations up 1 day past November 1st. She measured grass height with a ruler every Sunday morning and kept a color-coded spreadsheet of every violation she could find or invent. When she first saw my electric fence during one of her unauthorized property inspections, her face turned the same shade of red as the stop sign she claimed was 2 inches too short. The complaints started immediately. First came the formal notice claiming my fence violated Section 12.3 of the Neighborhood Aesthetic Guidelines. When I showed her my permits and the county approval, she switched tactics. She began telling neighbors that the electromagnetic fields from my fence were causing their Wi-Fi to slow down and their plants to wilt. She even brought a fake electromagnetic field detector to the next HOA meeting, waving it around dramatically while claiming she was getting dangerous readings. I tried to be reasonable with her, explaining how low-voltage agricultural fencing worked and showing her the safety certifications. But Patricia had already decided that my fence was a personal insult to her authority. She started photographing my property from the street every morning, measuring the distance between fence posts with a laser pointer, and filing complaints with every agency she could think of. Animal control, the health department, even the FCC got letters from Patricia about my supposedly deadly fence. Things escalated when she organized a protest outside my house, consisting of herself and 2 other board members holding signs that said things like, "No shock zones in our neighborhood," and "Think of the children." The children in question were all teenagers who thought the whole thing was hilarious and started taking selfies with my dogs through the fence. That seemed to make Patricia even angrier, and I knew she was planning something when I saw her lurking around my property line at odd hours with a notebook and a measuring tape. Then came that morning, 3 days before the clubhouse incident. I woke up to find my fence completely dead, the wires cut clean through in multiple places. But Patricia had made a crucial mistake in her midnight sabotage mission. She left behind evidence, including a laminated HOA notice taped to my fence post that read, "Unauthorized electrical hazard has been neutralized for community safety by order of HOA President Patricia Blackwood." She had actually signed it with her official HOA stamp. Now, most people would have called the police immediately, but I had a different idea. You see, Patricia didn't know about my background in electrical engineering or that I had spent decades designing power systems for industrial facilities. I reconnected my fence that afternoon, but with a few modifications. I properly grounded everything according to code, of course, but I also noticed that the HOA clubhouse's ancient electrical system was connected to the same transformer as several nearby properties. Their wiring was so old and poorly maintained that any significant electrical event in the neighborhood could cause interesting feedback loops. I didn't do anything illegal or dangerous. I simply restored my fence to its original configuration and added a few extra grounding rods for safety. If someone had, say, been stealing electricity from the main line to power unauthorized additions to the clubhouse, and if that person had created multiple connection points that weren't up to code, well, that could create quite a situation if the right conditions aligned. The kind of conditions that might occur if someone tried to charge multiple devices during a bunko night while running an illegally installed tanning bed in the back office. The fire marshal's investigation was thorough and revealing. They found the cut fence wires in Patricia's HOA filing cabinet, carefully labeled as evidence of violation resolved. They also discovered that she had been routing power from the main line to run her personal tanning salon that she had secretly built in the clubhouse storage room. The doorbell camera footage from the Hendersons across the street clearly showed Patricia in her zebra print pajamas and fuzzy slippers at 2:36 a.m. wielding bolt cutters like she was in some sort of spy movie. The technical report was damning. Patricia's illegal electrical modifications to the clubhouse had created multiple safety hazards. When she plugged in her phone charger that night, it created a surge that traveled through her jerry-rigged wiring, hit the overloaded circuit panel, and caused a cascade failure throughout the building. The Christmas carols were a bonus feature, apparently triggered when the security system's control board partially melted and randomly activated every programmed alert simultaneously. The neighborhood meeting that followed was unlike any other in Metfield Estates history. Over 200 residents showed up, far exceeding the clubhouse capacity, so we had to move it to the park. One by one, people stood up to share their Patricia stories. The Garcias talked about being fined for having the wrong shade of beige on their mailbox. The Wilsons described how she had measured their garden gnome and declared it 4 millimeters too tall. Old Mr. Peterson revealed that she had been charging him a monthly fee for having a bird bath that she claimed required a water feature permit. The vote to remove Patricia from the HOA board was unanimous except for one vote, Patricia's own. She stood there clutching her presidential gavel, insisting that this was all a conspiracy orchestrated by people who didn't understand her vision for the neighborhood. Her vision apparently included her personal tanning salon and a juice bar she was planning to add using more illegally diverted electricity. The city inspector who attended the meeting just shook his head and added another violation to his growing list. The legal consequences came swift and harsh. Patricia was charged with destruction of private property for cutting my fence, theft of electricity for her clubhouse modifications, and violation of multiple building codes. The criminal trial was brief but entertaining. She tried to represent herself and spent most of her time arguing that HOA presidents should have immunity from prosecution when acting in the interest of neighborhood aesthetics. The judge was not impressed. She also tried to claim that my fence was a public danger and she was protecting the community. When the prosecutor showed the court the actual voltage readings for my fence compared to the voltage running through her illegal tanning bed, even her own character witnesses started looking uncomfortable. The security footage of her sneaking around in her pajamas with bolt cutters didn't help her case either. Neither did the discovery that she had been using HOA funds to pay for her personal electricity usage at the clubhouse for the past 3 years. In civil court, I was awarded $15,000 in damages for the destroyed fence, emotional distress, and legal fees. The other residents filed a class action lawsuit for years of illegal fines and misuse of HOA funds. The forensic accountant found that Patricia had collected over $70,000 in questionable fines that she had used for personal purchases, including a hot tub she claimed was for HOA board stress relief. The civil judgment against her totaled $320,000. The criminal sentencing was the final blow to Patricia's reign of terror. The judge, clearly fed up with her interruptions and demands to speak to his manager, sentenced her to 18 months in minimum security prison for theft of services and destruction of property, plus 5 years of probation. Patricia's jaw dropped so far that her pearl necklace actually clinked against the defendant's table. She stood there stammering about appeals and constitutional rights while the bailiff gently guided her toward the exit, her hands shaking as she clutched her designer purse one last time before trading it for an orange jumpsuit.